Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Ramblings from Two Meddling Kids. I'm Edward Hunt, joined by my co-host,
Mike Cunningham.
and we are the Meddling Kids. And we're trying something different today, just being in separate rooms because we're going to start bringing on guests a little bit more. So we have to start practicing that to make sure it's all going well. So that's why we're not sitting next to each other. I promise Mom and Dad still love each other very much. We're still friends. It's not your fault. But for those of you joining us for the first time or for a quick review, we are the Meddling Kids, and we like to review movies. And today we'll be reviewing Creed 3. Also, remember, we will never spoil the movie in the first 5-10 minutes. So if you haven't seen it yet, that's A-okay. First 5-10 minutes here will be us talking, giving a spoiler-free review, our overall thoughts on the movie. And then we'll give background, and we'll make sure to let you know when we start spoiling stuff. All right, Mike, you ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
Let's hear it. Spoiler-free review, Creed 3.
Okay, so right off the bat, I'm gonna do better this time. I feel like I usually go on a tangent. So rate the movie 4 out of 5.
Okay.
I thought it was amazing. The cinematography was great. All the performances were amazing. I really enjoyed the story. I think I've been enjoying how Creed, or like just the whole franchise, has been able to be within the realm of Rocky without needing necessarily, Rocky to be like, really bleeding off of what was, right? So it is kind of, and that's the beauty of like a remake. We talked about this earlier. It was just like most stories have been told already. It's how you tell them, right? So it's just like I think it's fine. Like this one, Creed 3 has found a very interesting way to tell a story and continue the story from a legacy character. Michael B. Jordan really shines. Obviously, Jonathan Majors is phenomenal.
A1.
I don't think there's been one performance from him for the past like 3 or 4 years where I'm just like, oh no, he phoned that in. No, every single time he's just been amazing. I think he was a more menacing villain in this than in Ant-Man, which is interesting because that man has superpowers. But I think he was even like I think they were able to tell such a grounded story. I think so. Background, the Creed 3. I think they wanted to bring in Clubber Lang's son, the same way they did Drago's son in Creed 2, to kind of, once again, connect it to the Rocky universe. But I think this route, having someone from Creed's past, really, it changes the story, right? Because it's not grounded in, Rocky's background. It's grounded in, like, who Adonis Creed is and like the legacy that he's created. And I think it was just interesting having that dynamic between both Creed and Dame, right? Because it's bigger than just a fight. Like a lot of people, just see boxing as very, very primitive, very barbaric. It's just punching, but it was like bigger than just punching. So I thought that was very compelling. I also enjoyed how because a lot of sports movies can get boring, right? It's just like, it's basketball, you're shooting shots, or football, you're running and catching, and then boxing, you're just punching. But I think they found a very interesting way to show what goes into the mind of the boxers, and even like the boxing match in Act 3 was like just very interestingly done. It was also interesting to see how, like I said, getting into the mind of a boxer, right? So you're in the ring. Obviously, things are going, in real time. You got to constantly adapt. Obviously, you had a plan, and you're getting constant updates at the end of each round. But it was just like seeing what's going through that boxer's mind, right? Was very interesting. I think all in all, performances were great. The story was great. It didn't run too long. And I feel like you're going to bring this up. It did seem like it it was rushed in the end of Act 2 into Act 3. I don't know how. Once again, I haven't boxed in so long. I don't know the intricacies of title fights and all this bullshit.
Yeah.
So it did seem like a lot of shit was rushed. Not a lot, but like certain things within setting up a fight and things of that nature. It did seem a bit rushed. But what do I know? I'm not in that realm anymore. But yeah, so definitely a 4 out of 5. For right now, the front runner for the best movie of the year.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah.
And the best, I think, one of the best of the trilogy in the Creed franchise.
Fair. Yeah, I can see that. Cool. Yeah, absolutely. For me personally, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. I did really enjoy it. I thought it was really good. I'm 100% going to agree. Jonathan Majors is phenomenal. I have not seen him not act well in like anything he's ever done. And he really, last Man of San Francisco is 2019, right? I think.
I believe so.
Yeah,
Yes.
so he technically hasn't really been that active for that long. I did like a quick Google search as well, like for his filmography. You see 2017 is when he started. So, 6 years this man has been doing stuff, and he has not missed. He brings such, like, a person to everything he does. To such a character. You truly believe every character. So he was phenomenal. I think, and this is nothing against Michael B. Jordan. I personally find him just too pretty sometimes. So since it is hard to take him serious sometimes when he's like, especially the more clean cut Adonis Creed look. Sometimes I'm like, he just looks like he's pouting. I'm just like, I don't fully like believe like some of like the gritty raw emotions versus like when he's Killmonger, for instance, in Black Panther. That's such a different look, and I could believe a lot more of like that gritty realism. Sometimes for him, I was like, it just looks like he's pouting. All right, come on, pretty boy, get punched in the face. But like that's not his fault. And again, that's solely because the man is just too pretty for his own good, I think. Versus like Jonathan Majors has like such like a raw look to him, and like I could believe everything he did when he came out. Like his story, I was like, yep, he's portraying that beautifully. But and then, yeah, as you said, and I'll bring it up, there were some storylines which I felt were just kind of like rushed through a little bit, or they were just kind of played, and it was just like oh crap, we need to bring the movie back on focus for this, or we need people to make up. So since we need people to make up, we're going to have this other thing happen. And it was like, okay, we know there have been issues for some of these characters. So we're not like hit out of the blue with when these issues come to fruition later, and like that causes characters to make up again. But it's a boxing movie, so I guess you can't necessarily go into like all the intricacies of like relationship development between some of our main characters. But I think everyone did a really good job. And even though I said that about Michael B. Jordan, he still did a really good job too. It's just sometimes I'm like, I wanted Jonathan Majors to win. I did.
But I think that's what's the cool part of at least the Rocky franchise is it was built on the idea of the underdog, the idea like that winning isn't everything. So I think that's what made it very interesting because I had to go back and realize that he didn't win in the first movie.
Yeah, you're talking about Rocky or
no, Michael B. Jordan, Creed.
Yeah,
Creed. He didn't win in the first movie.
Yeah.
But it was like that's following. It's bigger than just a W.
Yeah.
It's about can you go obviously the original Rocky was can he go the distance, right? He was just a bum. He was nobody.
Yeah.
So
you're a bum.
I think.
Yeah.
I feel like I used to say that to my little brother a lot, and I didn't know where it came from.
You're a bum.
Clearly, a horrible little brother, older brother.
But yeah. But no, I agree. I think it was a good movie. I'd say definitely see it. Actually, I did see Creed 1. I never saw Creed 2. So I'm like, all right, crap. I really need to go back and see Creed 2. And honestly, with that, it made me want to, I want to binge watch all the Rockies now. Because I haven't seen the original Rockies in forever. I never saw Sylvester Stallone, like the 2006 movie. I never saw that. Because I was, 7th grade, 8th grade. And I was like, it looks dumb. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, right. I think, so I looked it up. Rocky 4, the one with Drago, was the highest grossing one.
Yep.
And
You
then
gotta beat the record,
5
man.
and 6 kind of fell off.
Yeah.
By the time Rocky Balboa was number 6.
Yeah.
By the time when that one came around, even like the fact that he was still fighting in the ring, it was like, all right, come on, Sylvester.
Yeah. Well, that was Rocky. That was the whole based on the Rocky in his prime versus this guy, could he win or whatever. I'm like, I remember seeing the trailers. I'm like, nope, I'm good. Yeah. But yeah, and I guess I probably should say some background. I think, Mike, you mentioned it too. By no means, I would say, are either of us professional fighters or anything like that. Yeah. Personally, I guess this might help with some of the explanations. Say it now is I do have some experience with boxing, Muay Thai. I mainly train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I have gotten hit in the face by dudes who are like kind of semi-pro or on like the lower pro level. I'm not in the ring, but I was like sparring partners with them, so I have some idea of like boxing and Muay Thai. Not a ton. Not a ton. I'm saying that now. I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah. But that is our spoiler-free review. I realize I might have slightly spoiled one thing. If at the end there. But what are you going to do? But I would say Mike and I both think that it's definitely worth seeing for sure. I liked it. Mike really liked it. Definitely go and check it out. Even if you haven't checked it out, you can still hear the play-by-play. You can still see the movie after hearing the play-by-play. But if you want, pause this now. Go see the movie. Make sure you come right back after the movie, and then you can hear what we thought, and maybe see you disagreed or agreed. I'd like to think agreed. All right. Before we start getting to our background and our play-by-play, quick word from our sponsors. Still this guy. I'm Edward Hunt. I'm on the Just Be team of Compass. I'm a real estate agent here in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Or rather, I have teammates who are in Virginia. I personally am D.C. and Maryland. And we're all about being advisors for the buy and sell home process. Or if you have a renovation project, we have great contractors. Or if you want to refi, we have great lenders. Or if you're anywhere in the country and want advice from a stellar agent in your market, hit us up, Compass. We have phenomenal agents all over the United States, and we'd love to help out. All right, Mike, ready to get started for the background?
That I am.
Let's hear it. What do we got?
Okay, so Creed 3 came out this year on March 3rd, 2023. Directed by Michael B. Jordan. This is his feature film directorial debut.
Yeah.
So I think he's executive produced a lot of stuff in the past few years, like since gaining popularity from Creed and Fruitvale Station and Black Panther. So like he's been more on the executive side, definitely behind the camera, but this is his first time actually directing. The runtime of the movie is 1 hour and 56 minutes, so it's not too long. Especially given that the other films were a lot longer. I think I had 30 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For each.
Yeah, so I guess 20, 30 minutes depending.
Yeah, this one's a bit shorter. I didn't get the budget was $75 million. I'm just looking at it right now.
Yeah, I know.
We don't know the box office. We'll see. It's projected to, I think, make between 38 and 40 million opening weekend. Okay. Which isn't too bad. It'll probably dethrone Ant-Man and the Wasp. Okay. If Cocaine Bear does it. Yeah. I don't have a Rotten Tomatoes score, but I think it's fairly high. I think it's at least 80 or 70, something like that. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it's just came out yesterday, so those numbers will fluctuate regardless. The genre is a drama sport, starring Michael B. Jordan reprising his role as Adonis Creed, Tessa Thompson as his wife Bianca, Jonathan Majors as a blasphemous past, Damian Anderson is his name. Sorry, you have Wood Harris playing Tony Duke, which is I think he is the son or the grandson of the guy Duke from the original Rocky series, who used to train Apollo Creed.
Yeah, and then Rocky later. Yeah, so that's the grandson technically of.
Yeah, the grandson, right? Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, cool. Yeah.
I just know that Duke trained Apollo Creed.
Yes. Yeah. Duke. Yeah.
And then Rocky trained Rocky 4 after Apollo Creed passed.
Yeah. Oh, spoiler.
Hey man, you can't spoil movies that have been out for 40 years. At this point, you either want to see it or you don't. Felicia Rashad as Marianne, the Adonis's mother, and then Florian Montanu as Victor Drago.
Okay. Yeah.
Who was an actual boxer and actor. He was in obviously Creed 2. He was in Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. Mm-hmm. So I think he's moving over to the acting side. Yeah. And the tagline of this movie is "You can't run from the past."
Yeah.
Which, obviously.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. That's what I have.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. And okay, yeah, so then the guy who plays Drago is or was an actual boxer too. That also makes sense because slight complaint about the movie before we get into it is all the heavyweight boxers besides Drago, I'm even Michael B. Jordan looked really small compared to
That's why Drago. When the guy that was the heavyweight title from from Adonis's gym, I was he was tiny in comparison to Michael B. Jordan, who was kind of tiny in comparison to Dame.
Exactly. Yeah,
so just are there no requirements? I thought there was a weight. Obviously, the height doesn't really matter, but at least a weight requirement.
Yeah, weight for sure. Yeah. I would have put the guy who was the heavyweight world champion from his gym, Felix, as a 170. You know what I mean? I can't remember what that weight class is, but yeah, I'm that's not heavyweight. I saw them that man's not heavyweight. Yeah. So.
Because even I was watching clips from Creed 2, seeing Michael B. Jordan back then, standing next to the Victor Drago character, and I was just like, how are they?
Yeah. Why are they the same weight class? Because don't get me wrong, Muhammad Ali wasn't like huge and hulking, but Muhammad Ali was still like 220, 230, 240, something like that. I mean,
That's what I said. I don't think it's a height requirement. It's the weight
yeah,
requirement.
yeah, heavyweight boxing. I'm just gonna look it up just to make sure I'm not crazy. But yeah, let's get started with it, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Yeah, 224. Yeah. So that's where it is right now. Yeah. So.
But okay.
Yeah.
So the movie starts in 2000. It's in a flashback, 2002, Los Angeles. You see Dame Anderson like driving through a neighborhood in Los Angeles. He stops, and then you see Michael B. Jordan's character, Adonis Creed, a young Adonis Creed, sneaking out of the house to join him, and they go off to, I guess, a boxing match, an underground boxing match, right? And I thought initially it was just to watch, but we find out shortly that Dame has a fight. He is an up and coming like Golden Glove champion, he desires to be a world champion. And I think they did very well with the casting, and also like we'd say this all the time. It's like showing a chemistry between the characters or a history between characters without having to exposit that history, right? It's just like chemistry between actors just helps sell so much more of the story than having to be told that these people are close or something like that. And it was definitely like a big brother, little brother. So like you can definitely tell
For sure.
Those two actors like really like enjoyed being around, or just were great actors regardless, whatever it is. But it was like they really sold this brotherhood between Adonis and Damien.
Yeah, no, yeah, you absolutely believed it from the get go. I was like, yep, absolutely. I mean, granted, young Adonis snuck out, so bad young Adonis, bad. But yeah, to like go hang out with older brother Dame. Did they really go into? Well, did you saw 1 and 2 of Creed, right? Creed 1 and 2.
Yes.
Did they really go into? They didn't really go into the group home as much in 2, did they?
So no. So in the original, in Creed, the first Creed, you do see Marianne going to get Adonis from. It didn't look like a group home. It looked like It looked like I guess a prison of some sort. I don't know. It was weird. Maybe a juvenile detention center.
Okay.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's the only background you really got. You just knew that he was in the foster care system. That was it.
Got you.
And then she found out about him. I think after not after Apollo died, maybe after the mistress had passed or whatever, and so she went to go get Adonis.
Cool. Yeah.
But yeah, so you don't really get too much background, which is that's a good question because it was like it's one of those things where like as you get sequels for different films, it was just like and they start expanding the world. It was I think sometimes it feels like this is a cheat, like you're really retelling or kind of retconning your own story, but. No, they didn't really get. You just knew that he was in the foster care system. That was it.
Yeah,
and she got him out when he was around. I want to say maybe 12, something like that.
Yeah, that tracks. And yeah, like I will say to that comment too, because I completely agree. A lot of times when they retcon stuff, it's like I don't like the latest Mandalorian episode. Some of that felt like a little bit of a retcon of what they did in the Book of Boba Fett, and you're like, I don't really know. But like this did not feel like that. This was like, we are just expanding more and learning even more about Adonis Creed's history, and we see that he has this familial relationship with someone, and we'll learn more about that relationship as we go. Yeah.
Okay, so we're at the underground boxing match. I think Dame and Adonis are in I guess in the locker room area, kind of. And this is where you see that one more of their chemistry, but also that they're students of boxing.
Yes.
Right, so like they've been watching tape on the guy that Dame's gonna fight, and he was Adonis is really like giving him game on like, all right, you need to focus on this. Like he leans to, I think he leans to the. Oh no, he said that the guy that he was fighting was a football player that had an injury.
Yep.
And so it's just like he's not gonna want to dance with you or something like that. And it was just very interesting this background into being an athlete or just being a student of something that like you're passionate about and like what you pay attention to, and that's why it's always interesting for me to watch. Like when I went to a friend Kenny's in California, his cousin is a UFC fighter or trains in UFC, so it's just like I watched the UFC fight with him and his friends, and it was way different than watching with some of my friends who aren't fighters, because they are very much students and like, they're calling out different moves. They're, giving alternatives to what you would do, what they would do in that scenario. And it's always very interesting to see, because I do the same thing with basketball. Like I'm watching plays and like, trying to break down offenses and defenses in the same way. So it's just very interesting to see people who are passionate about something really breaking it down for someone.
Yeah. And
it was just, especially because they were so young, because they had the knowledge of somebody that, like, people that have done their 10,000 hours, like, type of thing. Sorry, were you going to say something?
No. I was completely agreeing. Of like, yeah, absolutely. It was just like them studying the game, and you see it because it is like in boxing, Muay Thai, and BJJ. It's like sometimes you'll even like you faint. You're like, and you will see it a little bit coming up in the other fights. It's like, I'm just looking like I'm lifting my shoulder like this because I want you to go for that over or that under, and as soon as you go for the under, I'm going to go in for the over, right? Because like you're setting it up, and that's definitely what they were doing and studying it. So both of these young men in the movie are like, no, they want to be good boxers, and Dame is a great boxer, but we see, young Dame for sure.
And so in Dame's fight, he uses kind of the advice that Adonis had given him, and sorry.
No worries. Yeah. So then,
So he uses the advice that Dame gives him, and he wins his match.
Yeah.
I think it was very interesting. He what did he say? Something like bedtime or something, like night.
It was because Adonis was giving him tips and coaching, but I think it was clear that like Dame kind of knew some of the stuff that he was being told as well, and he was definitely because Dame's a couple years older. So when they were in the match, Dame first was like, first round knockout, make sure you put the money on this so we can bet on it. And then they went for a clinch where they're both like hugging each other, and Dame looks over at Adonis, not Rock. Dame looks over at Adonis and said, he said like, watch this or something about him go night night. And then as soon as it got out from the clinch, just boom, big overhand right, if I remember correctly, and just knocked him out. It was awesome. Yeah.
And so Dame wins his fight, and they're riding home. They're excited, and it was just like, I think Dame gives more background. It was like, I want to be a world champion. This is And so they stop at a liquor and cash checking place, and I think they were just going to get like food before
soda, cheap fries, nachos, all that. Yeah.
And as Adonis is walking into the the liquor store, he passes a guy that he recognizes named Leon, and he goes, "You don't remember me, do you?"
Yeah.
And the guy, doesn't, and Adonis just snaps and starts punching this guy and hitting this guy, and then it jumps to 2015.
Yeah.
Which is Adonis's his retirement fight in South Africa, and it's against Ricky Conlon, who was the guy that Adonis fought in the first one.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is interesting because it was just like and this might be a little bit of a retcon, but it was just like Ricky Conlon did that fight in the first one because he was going to prison. But it seemed like it was going to be his last fight because he wasn't getting out or something like that. Or maybe when he was getting out, he would have been too old to fight.
Yeah. Well, good behavior or something. I don't know. I don't remember. Yeah.
But this is where you get like, I think they're in I don't know what round it was, but like you do, and this is what I was saying. I enjoyed what Michael B. Jordan did to make the action scenes interesting in a boxing ring. It's not just people hitting one another and talking shit. It was like you saw him like eyeing different areas. So he saw, I think the rib cage, his right rib cage, right? He kept seeing that Conlon was leaving it open.
Yeah.
So he paid attention to it. He took his hits, but he was like paying attention to it. And then in the final minutes of the next round, he kind of hits him. He hits him in the rib cage once, and then obviously Conlon goes to to course correct, and then he hits him in the chin, and then he leaves it. And it was just like you just see the I guess it's literally like poetry in motion. Like a lot of times sports can be like just poetry in motion. Seeing like the anticipated swings, and then he just anticipated all his hits and knocks out. Actually, no, it doesn't knock him out. I think he hits him in the ribs enough where he can't get up.
Yeah, well, so with that, yeah, and like background, so I mean, yeah, because what he's doing is Conlon is continuously doing the same combo because Adonis is leaving open. So that Adonis keeps getting hit in the face, right? So every time Conlon goes for these combos where Adonis winds up getting hit in the face, as Mike said, Adonis notices that Conlon is leaving his right rib cage, so his liver open. So that's right where the liver is. So then what happens? So I guess liver for a normal person, because then someone could get a nice left body hook. If you're lining up from somebody, a left body hook into the rib cage, that hits the liver. That is a brutal shot. If someone gets stabbed in the liver, they can die. If someone gets hit in the liver, it's like a shot going through your body. You see people get knocked out. They're not like unconscious, but they can't get up because of liver shots. So every time, Conlon keeps hitting Adonis in the face, you see that he's leaving that open. Adonis starts playing with it, starts to slip it a little bit, which means like he's slightly dodging that punch, and then Adonis is stepping forward, and then that's how that first round ends. So then they walk into round two. Conlon's doing the same thing, and yeah, that's when Adonis slips it, left liver shot. I can't remember what he does for the other one, and then another liver shot, and two huge, brutal body blows like that. Yeah, down. So again, fun. Yeah, I was like watching this. I'm like, I need to box again. That's right.
Yeah, it was just. I think, like I said, it was just interesting seeing how you calculate things. Like I've been playing basketball, and it's just like I might have failed, on a defensive play. So now I'm like trying to recalculate, like what moves do I make now? But I think boxing, since it's a one-on-one sport, and it can be very quick. It's like lightning fast thinking that you have to do. And also, sorry, I just want to go back. It's 15 years later from 2020. So it's 2002. So it's 2017.
That makes sense.
I apologize, not 2015. I apologize. So yeah, Adonis wins the fight, becomes the world heavyweight champion.
Unified.
Apparently. And he retires shortly after to focus on his wife and his daughter Amar.
Yeah.
And so 3 years later, this is when we come. I guess it's the present day, because I think this was come out a few years ago, but it was like the present day, and you see Donnie.
Quick time just from that. That's not going to make any sense 10 years from now. I'm just saying, when they say 2002.
Present day in any film is like, don't do that.
Don't do it. Yeah, that's my one problem with like when they do stuff like that to stay relevant. Like present day, I'm like, yo, when we watch this 15 years from now, because if it's a good movie,
we watched it this year, and it was still rolling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're like 3 years, and I was like, no, math is wrong there. But yeah.
But yeah, so in the quote-unquote present day 2020, or maybe 2021, depending, you see Adonis sleeping on the couch, and it's a really nice house in California, and this little girl sneaks up on him, wakes him up, and she is deaf, so she's signing to him that he made a promise to do something. And he was like 5 more minutes, and she was like, no. And it was I think it was also very cute. The young actress was amazing.
Yes, yeah.
And so, I think this was maybe the biggest laugh was he promised that he would do a tea party with her.
Yeah.
And I think it's just parent things, it's dad things. It's just like these are the things you got to do, to make your kid happy.
Yeah.
And so he dresses up in a onesie. I think it looked like a reptile
onesie.
Yeah,
like a dinosaur onesie coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had the tea party with his daughter.
And they're signing all of this, for the communication, which is great.
Yes, because so in his wife, played by Tessa Thompson, had a condition where she was losing her hearing. She's a musician, and in the first Creed, she was losing her hearing, and I think she was worried that if they did have a child, would it affect the child? And apparently it has.
Yeah, she was born deaf.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he has a tea party with his daughter. He goes down to the studio where Bianca is. She was working on a track because she's a musician, but because of her condition, she can't perform live anymore. So the next best thing, still being in the realm of music, is to produce. And so they have a studio in their house, and that's what she's doing. And you get a cute moment between them. And I think it was just everything. It was it set up everything nicely, without having to literally walk you through it. And so shortly after, you see Dame has gotten out of prison, and he was on a bus. He's getting off a bus, and and then like so he's going somewhere, and then you see Adonis at his gym. I think is it Delphi?
Yeah,
No,
Delphi or Adelphi. I think it's
Delphi.
Delphi.
I thought so.
Yeah.
So that yeah, he's once again he's retired, so he's not in the ring anymore. But he's basically coaching the next up and coming, champions. And so he has his heavyweight fighter
Yeah.
Chavez, something Chavez. I can't remember his first name.
Felix Chavez.
Felix Chavez has a match.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were about to
Felix
say
would have been
something?
a heavyweight in the 19th century because 19th century heavyweights
When they were fighting like this,
yeah,
it was like the
they were like 170 pounds, but in like Muhammad Ali was like 220. So I saw one
Yeah.
thing that said he was 234, another said he was 218. So I've seen ranges between that. That's a heavyweight. Yeah.
But yeah, so Delphi Boxing Academy. Felix is being coached by Duke because he has a match coming up.
Yeah.
But he keeps like I guess knocking out all of his sparring partners, and it was like, yeah, we know that you can punch hard, but that's what training is for. Like making sure like you know how to tire out your opponent, or like but boxing is more about just brute force or being
Less
it
about
can be that.
Yeah, more control and all. That's what they're preaching. Which, for the record, I mean, yes, very sure, control and all that's very good. And you like when you're sparring, yeah, you're not like you don't want to be going full out and beating the crap out of your sparring partners for sure. But and I'll mention this again later when all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, what are you doing? I'm like, well, he's a boxer. Relax, y'all. You're freaking out about this, but that's later. So we'll get to it.
And so, yeah. So we see Felix training, and Mike. Mike. I'm gonna call him Adonis. That's his name in this movie.
Yeah.
Adonis is like telling him like like I said, we get that you have a good right hook or whatever it is, but it was like you need to train on like being on control and like different things like that. So he leaves him with say Felix is training to fight Victor Drago.
Yes.
That's and I think in a few weeks or something like that. It's like
Maybe
maybe a
couple
month or
months.
so.
Yeah, I think it's a couple months.
Yeah.
Though. Yeah.
So Adonis leaves Tony with Felix with Duke to continue training, and he's on the phone, and he walks out of the gym, and there's this random stranger just leaning on his car, and I think this is where you see, like you were saying, it was just like even Michael B. Jordan is so polished that seeing him like kind of switch it off to that more like aggressive or more like I guess like, more his hood side it is weird because it's just like I'm coming down pretty boy.
Yeah, exactly.
I get
Or again, when he looks sad, I'm just like, all right, man, stop pouting. I mean, I go like, yeah, like.
And so we get introduced to his like Dame says you don't remember me, right? Because it has been 18 years since the incident outside of the liquor store. And so I think Dame, and it was interesting because it was like I was kind of curious as to what Dame wanted at the time, at that time, right?
Yeah.
So he just says, I'm around, and you see Michael B. Jordan kind of like hesitant, and then he says like, what are you doing right now?
Yeah, you got time.
So they go get something to eat to catch up, and it was like very sweet. Like you do see that kind of standoffish nature, like because it was like it's very much like obviously Adonis has done well for himself since in the almost 2 decades since they had last seen one another. But you could tell, like, I think at that time, right, I think Dane was just kind of reaching out for a friend or so, just like, he didn't want to hand out. Adonis offers him money, said, anything you need, I got you type of thing. But he was like, I'm not looking for that. I'm very much, I can figure it out on my own. This is not why I'm here.
Yeah. And with that, I mean, Jonathan, like, again, just me saying again how good Jonathan Majors was. This whole, like, I've never been in prison for 18 years, so, and I don't know people that come out of prison after 18 years, but seeing how Jonathan Majors portrayed that, of like, I'm here, I'm driven, but like, I'm talking with people on the outside, so I do feel a little awkward. This is an old friend. I could feel all of that just kind of emanating from him. And like, that slight awkwardness, that like, not sure what to say with that. I'm like, it was very believable. That like, yep, that man just came out of prison, and like he has those reactions because he's trying to reacclimate to life on the outside. And so, yeah, great. That.
Yeah. So Dame mentions that he still wants to continue his boxing career. It's obviously been put on pause for 2 decades, but he stayed in shape. He learned some things when he was like learned different techniques when he was in jail, and he wants to continue to fight.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things where like Michael B. Jordan wanted to help, but I think he was really hoping it was just like, I hope he just wants like money or something easy easy to obtain.
Yeah, or like set him up with a job or set him up with something.
Yeah, because starting a boxing career when I assume, let's say he was 18, 17, 18.
I bet Adonis was like 14 and Dame was like 16. That would be my guess.
16? Okay.
I bet
I was thinking 16, 17.
Yeah, because he
around
was driving. Yeah, so 16 or 17, I bet. Yeah,
okay,
I don't think he was 18.
But yeah, so at most, right, Dame is 36.
Yeah.
At most. But it's still a little late. You're not Morgan Freeman. You can't just start your career.
Yeah, well, not in boxing like that, no. Yeah.
So it's just like, I think he is hesitant, but he did say anything I can do to help. So he tells what's his name? Dame to come to the gym. I think he waives the fees of training, anything like that. And then he offers to have Dame spar with Felix, because once again, Felix keeps knocking out all his sparring partners. So he's a little reluctant, because I think he is also wary of Dame. This is not the same. I mean, obviously they have the back and forth at times, but it was like, this is not the same man that I knew 2 decades ago. I don't know this person, so it's still a little wary. And in the same way you said, Jonathan Majors played it well too, where it was just like, I am fresh out, right? I spent my youth and a bunch of my adult life behind bars, so it's like it is reacclimating to being a civilian.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like half of his life, like literally, like say he was 16 and 18 years in prison, that's like half of this man's life he's been in prison, which is nuts. Yeah. And then but yeah, so then I will say, and I wrote down the notes because Duke, the trainer, he's just like, you don't, he's like, why are you doing this? He's older than you. You don't owe this man anything. And I'm like, well, like kinda, like just from like thinking of like, I mean a little bit, like like he did help out. The reason he's in prison was because of but hey, whatever.
I mean, we'll get there, but hey, bro.
I mean, even at this time, you kind of
you did what you did.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think we get it right before we go back to the gym. We get a brief moment at home at the Creed's house. So it's just like, Bianca's there with Amara and Mary. Mary's braiding Amara's hair. Oh, and
just because while they're at the restaurant, Dame mentions, "Oh, I wrote you. You never wrote me back." He mentions that in prison.
Did he?
I'm pretty sure he mentioned that while they're at at lunch, and then Adonis was like, "Oh, like I never got him," and then Dame was like, "Oh, well, your mom, she's still in that spot." And then it was mentioned at lunch that Dame wrote.
Really? Okay, I guess I maybe I missed that.
Yeah, so that was like,
it did come out. Okay, that helps because when it comes up later, to me it came out of left field.
She had no. Yeah, so Dame mentioned earlier in the movie that Adonis didn't write him back, and then Adonis was like, "I never got him." But for a second, I was like, "Is he lying?" Because like when Howard said, I never got him, I was like, "Wait a second." But no, he truly, and we'll see later. But Dame mentions it. Adonis says, "I never got him," and then they just kind of then start moving past that. And that, but yeah, that was
okay. I guess that makes sense. His mom's reaction in the next
scene.
So
when he says that, yeah.
So in the next scene, Adonis shows up late at home. Obviously, it's nightfall. His family, the 3 women in his life, are there, like hanging out in the living room watching TV, and so they send Amara off to bed, and Bianca gives Mary a glass of wine, and Adonis is a little hesitant, and we find out she had a stroke, and so like they're just kind of like watching out for her. He's like very, very worried, and then mom being mom is like plays that passive aggressive thing. It was like, well, I thought my son was gonna be here on time or something like that, or at least for dinner. And he mentions that he had ran into an old friend, Damien, and immediately Mary goes, "Damien?" Yeah. And then it's kind of like, I think it just, nothing really comes of it, but you do see that, her recognizing that name.
I thought he was going to ask her.
And like I said, I guess I didn't hear it or see it, or maybe I was just writing stuff down at the time when he mentioned the letters.
Yeah, because I thought he was going to ask her right then and there. I remember I was just like, I was like, why didn't he ask? But I was like, he didn't want to ask in front of Tess and all that other extra stuff. But I literally, when he saw that, I was like, oh, cool, he's going to ask about the letters now. But it was much better how they did it later. But yeah.
Yeah. And so we jump to, what's his name? Damien at the gym. He's like working out, and he's once again very adamant about this. I want to start my career, like, or restart my career. I want to get back into it, and the best Adonis can do at the time is just, bruh, like we can get you training with a heavyweight, the heavyweight champion, right now. And so they cut as Dame is about to go start sparring with Felix. They cut to Amara in school, and she's drawing a picture of, I think, her and her dad. Her dad's in the ring, like in a boxing ring of some sort, and this little girl comes over, snatches her painting, and just rips it in half. Yeah. And then immediately Amara gets up and gives this girl the meanest right
pop right there.
There was no hesitation. There was no immediately punches this girl in the throat. Yeah. And then like, so it's this very funny scene. Like, I feel like there's Hollywood just does this a lot, where it's just like the parent teacher conference after the kid has done something, and this kind of, there's such a disparity between the reactions between the mom and the different parents, where it's just like, Adonis is like, well, the little girl came to her, so she got punched in the face. What you?
Like, why isn't she in trouble too? Like, what she did?
And then like Bianca's like, what he means is, and it's it's a very, very funny reaction scene. And then like, I think it was leaning into this. Obviously, Adonis growing up, how he grew up, and in the profession that he was in, he's used to taking out his anger or aggression through getting physical and violent with people. Yeah. But that's not necessarily how, they want to raise their child, or just show them that that's not the default reaction you should have when confronted, or like, stuff like that. So it's like, that was very interesting. And then they play it for a bit, and then the next time you see them getting, as they're having that conversation, they're also getting ready for a dinner party, because Adonis has invited Damien over for dinner. Yeah. And there was like just sweet moments, like because you also see that Bianca still doesn't know much about Donnie's past,
which I find just baffling. But that's being as someone
a little bit, yeah. I think this is one of those retcon things where it's just like, you need to make it seem like their daughter is at least 11 years old.
Right? I put her because that was a nice drawing for like a 7 or 8 year old, but it was a crappy drawing for an 11 year old. So I'm gonna say like 7 or 8, but not like old. She's
I never know the kids.
Yeah. So I bet she's like 7 or 8 would be my guess. But yeah, but like, you've been married to this man for a while. What's going on? And like I agree with what you're saying of like, like that's how Adonis grew up. Obviously, like, he was able to take out his emotions using his fists in boxing, and he never really learned like the emotional side, or to like share his emotions and talk through stuff. But yeah, being like, you've been married to this man for like X amount of years, and you don't know like anything about his past, and he hasn't opened up at all. I'm like, that's not a healthy relationship.
But so Dame comes over, they have dinner, and then like you get more background, like how kind of their background. You find out that they were from the same group home, and then Mary came and got Adonis, but they still stayed somehow close. Yeah. Even though Adonis was living in L.A. and I think what's his name, Damien was still in Crenshaw. Yeah. Well, I guess that's both L.A., but Damien was in Crenshaw. Yeah. And then and then you also find out, this is where we found out more about Bianca producing music, and you see Dame kind of questioning, well, how does that, because obviously her passion was being on stage and performing, but she can't do that anymore. And it was him kind of questioning, like, how does that make you feel? Like, that's not your dream, but, and I think it's interesting that just, you take, life comes at you, and you have to take it for what it is. It sucks, but I think it's finding ways to adapt to whatever, scenario that you're given that really helps. Because like, yeah, obviously this is what I wanted to do, but this is what I'm able to do. Yeah. And I need to be okay with okay with that, you know, in the long
Yeah,
run.
I also think it's funny, like Dame, who just met his wife. Granted, you know, when you see stuff from the outside, sometimes it's easier to see from the outside than the inside. But I was just like,
Hmm.
this man doesn't even know your wife, and he knows she's a little upset about this. Come on, Adonis, why don't you know
Hmm.
she's a little upset about this? This is your wife, sir. So again, like that communication. But again, it's easier to see from the outside versus the inside sometimes. But yeah.
And so they have a after I think Bianca goes to put Amara to bed or something like that, and so Dame and Adonis have a conversation downstairs, and I think Dame cuts to the chase, and he was just saying, "I want to be a
Yeah.
contender. Like that's what like this whole being a punching bag for your protege isn't for me. I need you to." And Adonis is like on some honest thing, talking about his age, talking about like you still need to work your way back up. Like obviously you have your resume before you went to prison, but what does your resume say now?
Yeah.
You don't. I can't just do
Your
this.
first pro fight
And I
can't be
think
a title shot. That's, yeah.
yeah. And so then we get Dame having an outburst, or just like shows his frustration in the when he's sparring with Felix. He keeps hitting him in the shoulder aggressively, even though it's like you said, it's supposed to be sparring. So it's like the goal is not to knock somebody out or hurt them. It is you're training.
Yeah.
And so you see that outburst and that frustration and then I think Donnie, after that scene, you see Donnie kind of teaching Bianca a few tricks for boxing and stuff like that. And these are really cute moments. Him showing his daughter like a piece of himself. Like this is how Daddy was able to afford all these different things. This is a big piece of me. So showing his daughter. Techniques for fighting and stuff like that, which I seen will plant the seeds for like Creed 6 when
Yeah, exactly.
he dies in the ring and she takes over.
Yeah, it's Amara 1 is what it's going to be. Well, with two things with that, and then
She's still a Creed 6.
fair. But two things with that. I was talking about one, and this is again relationships. And quick second, when like Dame mentions the past when they're hanging out, and then when you said, Tess goes to send Amara to put Amara to bed. Adonis gives her a look a few times when Dame starts mentioning the past, and it's very clear in that look that he doesn't really want her there to hear about the past. And that's when she like gets the hint. It's like, okay, I'm going to take Amara to bed and go. And this is just looking at the relationship. And then two, when he's showing Amara, when Adonis is showing Amara some of his boxing stuff, he says the words, "Let's keep this a secret. Let's not tell mom." I'm like, that's not. So it's just one of those like looking at the relationship. I'm like, there's a little bit of dysfunction here, but that's just from like an analyzing relationship. You shouldn't be lying to yourself.
Let's not tell mom we're gonna have a Twinkie before bed.
I mean,
these different things.
yeah. Well, this is something that she clearly said, hey, we shouldn't just have her necessarily be boxing. And then he's like, let's not tell mom, I'm going to teach you how to box anyway. I'm like, well, throwing that out there. But yeah. So it's a very cute scene. It's because it's a very cute scene because they're bonding. But then I saw that and I'm like, alrighty then. But yeah.
So next we get so right before Bianca had walked away from the conversation.
Yeah.
She said invite him to the release party. I think one of her artists was having a release party, and she said invite Dame. So we jumped to that release party.
Yeah.
And we see one of my favorites, Kaylani, performing on stage at this release party. And it was like, so there's Dame, Adonis, and Bianca, obviously. And then you also see Duke, Felix, and his mother, who I assume is also his like manager. And Drago shows up.
Yeah.
At this party. So it's just like, all the major players. And so I think this is right after his little outburst in the gym. So he's kind of avoiding Felix and that whole squad because Duke was constantly telling him like, you don't owe this man nothing, like anything. I know why you're doing this, but it was like you don't owe like. And Duke was always very wary of Dame.
Yes, from the get go. Yeah.
And so Dame is avoiding them, and Adonis goes over to Damien at the bar, and he says like, I think he cracks a joke, and it really to lighten the mood, and you kind of do see this. They do have this kinship, which was really nice. And then as Dame and Adonis are talking, Adonis sees Drago, and he's like, "Are you good?" Like he was like, "I don't need to be babysat,
Yep.
man. You're good." So it's like you see Adonis go over to talk to Drago and Felix to kind of really like hype up this fight, and as Adonis goes to talk to the fighters, Damien takes the chance to go talk to Bianca, and then you get more of this kind of this background on how she feels about producing. He asked her, "How does it feel to see someone else sing your song?"
Yeah, because that's a big thing with him is like, and you see that later, but like, Dame wanted to be a boxer. He watched all of Adonis's fights in prison. Like he loved boxing. So he feels that kinship with her of seeing other people do, what you want to do. Yeah.
And then he also mentions no, I think Bianca brings up Leon.
I don't think Bianca didn't know the name Leon yet. Bianca asked him more questions about, the group.
Oh no. So you're right. She said he was like, "You want to know why I went to prison?"
Yes.
Or something
Yeah.
like that.
There's something with that. Yeah. And just more. She was trying to get a little more history, and then Dame was like, "Oh, Dame said, I'm surprised that he hasn't told you this yet. Because that's what you do in a healthy relationship." But I don't know, whatever. But then he mentions like, well, it was Adonis was there when I went to prison, and it had to deal with this guy Leon. But that's all I got to tell. The rest I shouldn't.
Yes, I'll let Donnie tell you the rest because that's not his story to tell. And so he kind of is planting these seeds, or not maybe planting seeds, but just like Bianca was already like, I don't know much about my husband, and I think she's utilizing whatever resources she can to kind of get to know. Because even it's crazy, she's very close with Mary, who is Adonis's mother, and even she doesn't know much about his life before she came to get him.
Well, question is Mary's not his blood mother, right?
No.
Right?
So Mary was Apollo Creed's wife.
Yes.
Apollo Creed cheated on Mary with Adonis's mother.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I thought.
And that's why you said, like, that's why when later on she says, "I forgive you."
Yeah.
And it's because like, so like even in the original, in the Creed 1, she goes to get him because she realizes there was a piece of Apollo out there that was just by himself, because I assumed, I don't know, I can't remember what happened to Adonis's mom. I assume she passed.
Yeah, probably.
Or something, or just gave him up, whatever it is. But no, she's not his.
That's what I thought. Yeah, was not. But then in before, and we don't need to revisit, but there are scenes sprinkled in of Bianca. Yeah, not Tess, because that's her actual name, Tessa Thompson. But of Bianca and Adonis discussing, and Bianca being like, "Hey, it'd be great if you'd open up to me more." And Adonis is like, "I ain't got nothing to say," and it just kind of keeps it moving. And I'm like, so there's this. So since Adonis hasn't been opening up, that's why she's then asking Dame for some of these questions to get more info, as you said too. Yeah.
And then so Damon says, let Adonis tell you about Leon and what happened. And then shortly after, we see that kind of a fight breaks out in the party, and Drago gets injured. I think he gets a concussion, and he gets his hand.
Well, it's a clear assault. Like whoever they came in with the intention of messing up Drago, because they had like a police baton basically to like bring down on Drago's fist to break it. It was a very clear intentional attack. We don't know who it did, like who these people are or why, but it is a very clear intentional attack on Drago to injure him. Yeah.
Yeah, and so obviously Felix and his mother are upset. Duke's upset because of the fact that they have a fight. And then I'm trying to figure out, what to do. Like they can't cancel it. They put up all this money.
Yeah, they want to keep. They rented out the venue. They started to sell tickets. Yeah, and
so we get. I can't remember how it happened. I assume Dame came back to him, but he's basically saying like, this whole thing started. This whole franchise basically started because Apollo gave Rocky a chance, who was a relative nobody. So it's like, why don't you build that with Dame fighting Felix? And Adonis mulls it over, and then he's like, sure. And then now he has to get the rest of the team on board. And Felix trusts him. Just like he has no doubt that Felix won't win. He just wants to make sure that the fight goes on.
Yeah.
And so they agree. Dame takes Victor Drago's place, and they have the fight.
Yeah.
which is a title match.
Yeah, because like Drago didn't have the title, and I think Felix was like a unified. I can't because there's like 6 heavyweight
Yeah,
championships.
he had at least
Yeah,
3.
exactly.
So yeah, it did say something about unified
Yeah.
title match. So that you see the fight. Obviously, I think does Dame come out by himself?
Dame,
And
Dame. So how it works too with boxing and judo, you can't have 2 boxers from the same gym fight for the same title. So then Dame, who
got it.
was kind of with a Delphi gym, he had to find a new gym, and he does have a new gym with 2 other trainers. We don't know who these men are. They kind of just pop up out
Yeah,
of nowhere now. But yeah, when he comes out, well, so even before so they have a little talk beforehand while they're in the locker room, and I want to mention that because I said I saw what they were going for, but I felt this was cheesy. When Adonis before the match starts, everyone's prepping, Dame's prepping. Adonis goes and talks, says, "How you feeling? Just put on a good show, do your job." He walks out. Then you get this shot of there's the wall in between, and both Adonis and Dame are staring at each other through the wall. And I was like, that's cheesy. I was like, I saw what they were going for.
yeah,
It kind of
yeah.
flopped for me. It flopped enough that I wrote it down. I was like, I see what you're going for, but meh, not the greatest part. Yeah.
And so during the match, Dame is using some like dirty tactics. You see him hitting Felix in the
Not
shoulder
dirty.
again,
So
which I think it wasn't. It just seemed dirty for some reason.
they see that was my issue with Creed as a whole, as like for fighters. So don't get me wrong, Dame does a couple dirty things, right?
Yeah, the elbow.
Yeah, the elbow cut across. He hits him with the elbow, but then also like kind of kneeing him a little bit in clinches. That's
Yeah,
dirty.
yeah.
But targeting a specific place on a fighter's body to weaken it is not dirty. It's a more brutal way of fighting, I guess, but it's a completely legal
I
thing.
think no. I know you're right. I
Yeah.
know it wasn't. I think the movie made it seem like it was dirty.
Exactly.
I think that's
And that was my
because they were so shocked that it was
Yeah,
happening.
they're like, "What is he doing? He's gonna hurt him." Blah blah. I'm like, dude, they're freaking professional boxers. Like, what? Why are you crying right now? Like,
And so one thing I will know because we're gonna just zip past this,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was just like at the end of each round, as they're the fighters are on opposite corners,
Mm-hmm.
Dame keeps moving his trainers out of the way because he's looking at
Yes. Oh,
he
it's
wants to
so
look at
much mental, and it's so
Felix.
great. Yeah.
And it was like once again, it's these. I'm loving these shots in the ring because it is a boxing movie. So obviously the story behind it is cool, but it was like the boxing scenes are what's going to draw
Oh, yeah.
a lot of your sports fans and stuff like that. So you see him he wants a clear view
Mm-hmm.
at Felix because he sees that he's hitting that shoulder, and they're constantly his trainers are icing him
Yeah.
because of the fact that obviously it's bothering
Yeah,
him.
and Felix is getting pissed off. When you get pissed off, you can't think straight. Dame, even in the fight, when he has a chance, he's like, you soft, and like he's like getting in his head even more and more and
Yeah.
more. Which, if Felix is letting him get in his
Yeah.
head, that's him being a crappy fighter. All right, if you're gonna let someone get in your head like that, that's on you. But yeah,
And then in that third round, Felix gets knocked out.
yeah, and oh my God, for
And
violence! It's a fight, y'all. It's a fight. Get over it.
Dame becomes the undisputed heavyweight champion.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you see everybody from Felix's side is like frustrated at Adonis because he's like, well, what the hell? Like get your boy type of stuff. It was like, and I think it's also the fact that Felix having those titles brought prestige to Delphi Gym, right? And so it wasn't just obviously just him as a fighter, and so Duke tells him take some time off from the gym, don't come back,
Yeah.
type of thing. And I was like, don't I own this?
Yeah, I mean, I own this gym. I gave a fighter a chance. Like, why are you?
You take some time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is where I felt like the movie got a little weak. In the Act 2, this is where we're at. This is why I gave it like a 3.5. And I did think about a 3 for a second, is because Act 2 gets a little weak for me. Of like some of the motivations of these characters, what's bringing them together. All of a sudden, I'm like,
It is a little rushed.
Yeah.
But so anyway, you see, Donnie is driving around. He gets a call from Mary, so he stops by her house because she's found a box in her house.
Yeah.
Well, not found, but she was looking for a box in her house, and it's just full of letters from Damien.
Yes.
And this is where you find out. That's why she recognized that name because Damien had been writing Adonis. I don't know for how long when he was in prison.
Yeah.
And she had hidden those letters because she's, being a parent, you see your child going down possibly a wrong path you're trying to avoid. I feel like movies and TV shows and it's full of people who's like, I was doing it to protect you type
Yeah.
of thing, and that constantly coming back to the haunt,
Mm-hmm.
the protagonist or whoever in the long run.
Bites you in the butt.
But yeah, so like not Damien, Adonis is a little upset because he's like, well, why did you like that man before you came to get me?
Mm-hmm.
He was like the one that was protecting me. He was literally my brother.
Yeah.
And he feels like I abandoned him. And then he looks at one of the letters and he sees a picture that Damien has sent, and he's crouching down with some other inmates, and he recognizes one of the inmates in the photo
Yeah.
as the man that assaulted Victor Drago at the release party.
Yeah. Well, good, Mary.
And so now he's like fuming. He's like, "What the fuck is going on? Like, what are you doing?" And so he goes to find Damien, who's on the beach, celebrating becoming the heavyweight champion. And this is where you see that facade drop.
Yeah.
From Jonathan Majors, and he truly becomes the villain of the film, where he's just
He becomes a Marvel villain here. That was my issue. Like, he becomes a full-on Marvel villain out of nowhere. I'm like, what? Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, so he was just like utilizing him. So he sabotaged Drago so that there would be an opening for somebody to fight Felix, and then he just manipulated Donnie into making that person to replace Drago him.
Yeah. Well, so I will say from that, so like Mary, she showed him the picture because Adonis is like, he was my brother, he's been on my side, and Mary's like, is he? And then kind of like, throws the picture at him. So that's when Adonis sees it. And then before that, it is like a good sign when Adonis was like, oh, you needed me. And Jonathan Major's like, I needed you when I was in prison. I needed you when I just came out of prison. And like, because when Dame first met with Adonis, I don't think he was planning on manipulating him like that when he first met. But as soon as he realized, oh, I'm not going to get a title shot this way, now I'm going to need to manipulate and go through it because I need to and yeah, it was at this point where in my notes I think it summed it up very well. I'm like, well, that's not cool. And then I think that that's really what's
so profound.
Exactly.
How rude!
Like, rude,
all right,
that's not what friends do.
Language.
Friends don't do that, Dame. All right. Well, that's said all I need to say.
And so, I think you do see. So once again, like I said, Damien drops the facade. Who says like I don't need you anymore. I'm the heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
And you see this back and forth between them, and where Donnie feels like Damien threatened him, so he steps to him, and Damien immediately just punches him directly in the face. And what was interesting, what I liked, is the fact that it was just like when they went out to eat, when they first to catch up. Donnie goes, you know what I remember? You knocking me out, right? This, once again, breaking that tension. And Damien goes, and you know what I remember? Picking your ass back up. And it was just like they were always there for one another. So when on the beach, after Damien reveals his the plan or what just happened, and he punches him, he leans down. And he says, "Oh, you all right?" And he was like, "No, pick yourself back up for once." Yeah. And it was like kind of this full circle.
That was awesome.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah, that was great.
And so Donnie drives away, and he goes back to the liquor store from the beginning of the movie, and you get the full scene of what happened. I think I'm getting frustrated at Hollywood. It was like they'll give you a flashback in pieces until like they're ready to show you what fully happened. It's like, oh my god, are you serious? But anyway, so you see that. Literally, so they stop at the liquor store. Donnie goes in to go grab food and stuff for them. He recognizes Leon, who was a former, I guess, manager at the group home that used to abuse them. Yeah. And he recognizes Leon. Leon doesn't recognize him, and it's something in him just snaps, and he starts assaulting Leon. And Leon's friends come and pull Adonis off of him, and are about to start beating him. And this is when Damien gets out of the car. And earlier in the film, when they were at Damien's match, Adonis saw that there was a gun in his gym bag. Yeah. But he didn't say anything about it. And so Damien pulls the gun to protect Adonis from the men that are about to assault him, and the police pull up. Yeah. And so this is what I was saying. It was just like, and as the police pull up, Adonis runs away. Yeah. Damien obviously gets caught. He had priors or whatever, so like he,
goes for
went to
18,
prison.
which is fucking ridiculous. He's a minor, but I mean, and then you have a gun. I don't, whatever. Yeah, we don't need to.
But I think that's what I was saying. It was just like, yeah, you helped him, but it was like, bro, ain't nobody asked you to bring a gun. Like,
Yes, yeah, very true. But you know, like, well, was that or just
that's what it was like. If anything, it was just like if they were just fighting outside of the liquor store.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was like I did. It was like you brought a gun to a fist fight.
Yeah, which is,
I did not request.
yeah, that's fair, and that is very true.
But that's all might be me being
Yeah,
selfish.
no, that's very true. Like, Dame should not have had a gun, and Dame should not have pulled a gun. You know, on that to like, even though if it was to help Adonis, it was a very dumb move. Yeah, either way.
But yeah, so we get that flashback, and then he gets a call from his mother again. And I'm surprised he actually picked up, being that he was like kind of frustrated with her. But he picks up, and it's not his mother; it is Bianca.
Yeah.
And she's telling him that his mother has had another stroke, and that he needs to get there soon to say his goodbyes. It's not looking good. So like he rushes there, and they have this sweet moment where his mother is kind of like out of it, and he's apologizing to her like he didn't mean what he said, and she starts talking to him and forgiving him, but she calls him Apollo.
Yeah.
And then you get that obviously, like, she was, when she found out about Apollo's infidelity, that she was frustrated with him, and I think that's what that frustration and not being able to forgive him because he had passed away obviously years before. That's why she had went to go get Adonis, because that is Apollo's son, and it was her way of coping, grieving, but also being able to forgive Apollo for what he had done. Like, so Adonis was that vessel or something for her, or the path for her to be able to forgive her husband. And it was like a really sweet moment. Obviously, Felicia Rashad is just an all-star. But it's also sad. So she passes away. They go to her funeral, and I think after the funeral, Adonis finally has this moment where he opens up opens up to Bianca about the group home and his experience with Damien, and basically just saying like he felt if he didn't bring it up, it's like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I think she's giving him this, the speech about it was just like, same thing Duke was saying, you didn't do anything wrong, right? Yeah. Even if you did run away, like what? And I think that's one of those things, like asking people, right, when they feel guilty about something like that they didn't do. It was just like, all right, let's be real about this. What could you have done if you would have stayed?
Yeah, yeah.
Like realistically, like what? And it was just like you were 14 years old.
Yeah.
What were we gonna do? Like, what I'm saying?
Not
so it was just like,
man, but whatever. Yeah, just,
shut up. That's already a
okay, got you. Oh, right. So the action that started all of this, for sure. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. But yeah.
And so they say that so it's a sweet moment where him like just opening up finally to his wife, because she has been asking for obviously for years at this point, and you see why he was so reluctant. Yeah. It wasn't a I don't want to tell you, but it was just like telling you will force me to confront a lot of things. That
traumatic shit for him, for sure. I mean, like, to grow up in this group home, to have all of that, and I don't want this to be taken like, I guess there could be some people hating on me for this if they're hit, but like the man went through trauma, and it's very hard to talk about trauma. It's very hard to unpack all of that trauma, and that is something that
and you can't do that on somebody else's timeline.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it is something that I do think everyone should try to deal with. If you have trauma or you have issues, like discussing things, going to a therapist, all of that is very important, and it will help, because just pushing it down as Adonis did in this movie did not help in like the long run, and it felt like it turned into his wife feeling alienated. And there was another fight they had before all of this too, where it was like, don't let Amara see you like this, I don't know what's going on with you. So it just pushing it down won't work. But where we are right now is like it's apparent, and there's a very good reason why he has been like this, and it's a traumatic experience. There's a lot of stuff that's gone with it, for sure. Yeah.
And so they make up, and then he also mentions that Damien is still coming. Like, so now that he doesn't, now that he has a title and all that stuff, he's coming for the life that he believes he is owed because of, what Donnie in his mind took from him.
With this, what? I mean, he's just like, he won't stop. He won't stop what? Boxing and like, again, he's not a Marvel villain, yo. He's not gonna.
He's not the fucking Terminator.
Like, he doesn't
eat. He doesn't sleep.
I'm like,
He's only out for vengeance.
But no, like Dame's gonna keep boxing and try to keep winning titles. Okay,
Yeah.
let him live his life, man.
He's just gonna be outside of the house, just shadow boxing until you challenge him.
No, that's not what he's doing. Like he's talking a lot of ish, and we learn that later. And we're about to learn that is that I guess he's talking ish about Adonis and his boxing gym. But for the most part, it's like he's gonna box and do his thing. Yo, Adonis, you got your money, you got everything, you got like. But yeah,
I agree. That was
like what?
It was. I think it was contrived for the plot.
Yeah.
But so anyway,
Yeah.
so Bianca kind of tells Adonis, it was like, well, if the only way to shut him up is to fight him, then I guess you got. It was interesting. She didn't say that. She didn't say that in the movie. She said it in the trailer.
No, she said something. She said something like that.
She didn't say, yeah, I guess you got to fight him.
She said, you got to do what you got to do, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which
And so
get the Avengers
Adonis
together.
goes on to first. Say it again.
So which is get the Avengers together and stop this Marvel villain. He stopped. Like no, it's a box.
You're gonna stop by Wakanda. Obviously, you're gonna pick up a bunch of weapons.
Yeah.
But so Adonis goes on first take, where he says he's speaking with Stephen A. because obviously you need to put Stephen A. on more screens.
Yeah. I know, right?
But he says that obviously when he retired from boxing, he had a lot of unfinished business, and I didn't realize that at the time. But it was like as I was reviewing stuff, this was utilizing Damien's methods to draw him out.
Yes,
because
you gotta talk here.
So Damien calls in because now he got a nice house.
Yeah.
Like he got all the.
You got a nice house and a very pretty lady too, and like there you go.
Yeah. So, and so Damien calls in the first take, and it was just like, but like you're a fraud, you're a liar, like you run away, you're not for your family and stuff like that. And so Donnie challenges Damien to a heavyweight fight. We don't TBD, like we don't know how long. And then shortly after, you get the classic Rocky montage where they're both training.
Yeah.
I think it was interesting. Somebody brought it up in something I was reading. The difference between it was very similar to the training montage from Rocky 4, when you had Rocky training in the woods and Victor Drago like training in a lab, and it was like it was very much like the disparity on how they prepared for both of the fights.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because of the fact that when you first meet Damien in present day, quote unquote, he's the one that's like looking for a handout, like very rugged in his training. Like he's training in his room
in his like
the same way I assume he would have trained in prison, where it's like it's close quarters.
Yeah.
You got to use what you can, and you see the flip side now, where like Damien has a bunch of like people like watching him train.
He's on like Muscle
and stuff
Beach
like
in Venice. He's like on
and then like you have Adonis, in some remote location.
Yeah.
With training with just Duke, the female trainer that they have, and Drago comes to help. So it's very like it's interesting the parallels on how how the movie how they started in the beginning of the film to at the end.
Yeah.
And then you get the match at Dodger Stadium, which was cool. And I think the first 2 rounds, because this is a sports movie, so we can just run through. The first 2 rounds was just like whatever. I think it was both of them. I think Adonis showing that I haven't fought in a while, but like it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. Well, everyone, the commentators too, were like, "Oh, he's so old now." I'm like, dude, first off, Dame is older than this man. Like, they're just like Adonis is so old now. I'm like, that doesn't work because Dame is older than him. Yes, Dame, I guess, has been fighting. We don't know if he's had matches in between these fights or not. I'd imagine he had like 1 or 2 matches in between. I don't know though. Like I have no idea. But but I just thought that was very funny. Like Adonis, and like they're like Dame is clearly in the Adonis is the underdog here. I was gonna say Dame's the overdog. That don't really make, but yeah. But yeah, so first 2 matches.
So the first 2 rounds are I think them just figuring each other out. And which was interesting. Like once again, just showing boxing and how you really size up your opponent, because you can do all this training all you want. Like Muhammad Ali said, you can prepare all you want, and then you get punched in the face or punched in the mouth. And how do you?
Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan to get punched in the mouth.
Mike Tyson. Sorry, I thought it was Muhammad. Yeah, Mike Tyson. Yeah. And so the third round was what I really loved. It was just like it was third round forward, right? So like the match starts, and you see them looking at one another, and they see each other as their younger selves.
Yeah.
And this is where you see the parallels where it's just like, this isn't just a boxing match for these grown men.
Yeah.
It's something deeper than
Yep.
that. It is these former brothers, these, like that both felt betrayed, both, feel bad for what's happened in the past, and they don't know how to address it
Express
without,
themselves. Yeah.
yeah. And so it's very, I called it fighting in the void or whatever.
Yeah,
It was
a
very
really
interesting.
cool
So like,
sequence.
yeah, so it's just like all of the crowd is removed, right? So it's just them two in the boxing ring. It's silent. I think maybe they're talking a bit, but it was just like, it's very much them just fighting.
Yeah.
And then you see like some jail bars come up at a certain point because that's what Dame had to deal with. You see like I think there was like a pillow or something like that, which was like a flashback to when Leon was like beating them in the group home. So it's just like this fight is bigger than what's this match or whatever. It was like very well done, very well choreographed. I think the Creed films especially have done very well with choreographing the boxing scenes. And then so when you jump back to like bring the crowd back in, it is the 12th round. So like they've been fighting it out for between round 3 and round 11
in this sequence. Because I was a little confused because I was like, oh, this is such a cool sequence. I have no idea what this means for the match. Is this one round? Is this not? And I wrote it, and I was like, okay, this was 8 rounds. Yeah, 8 rounds was that. Yeah.
And so in the 12th round, this is where you see them calculating. So like, I think, Dame punches Adonis directly in the gut, and it looked like he's down for the count.
Yeah.
But I think he gets a second win from from Bianca, and so he stands up, and this is where you see him calculating. So like, Dame did a lot of like, I don't know the blocking move, but it was like he was like creating shutters with his arms, and so like Adonis just calculates to when he's opening his arms to really get a shot at his face, and once he gets that one shot, I think it dazes Damian for a bit, and then he just knocks him out.
Yeah.
Wins the match, becomes the undisputed heavyweight champion. They're just passing this.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It might as well be a participation trophy.
And it's only 3. It's not all 5 or 6. I don't. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but so like, obviously they're celebrating, and I think Adonis takes a step back and goes to visit, because I think there was very much this look across the ring after Damian wakes up from being knocked out. It was just like kind of this like respect or something like that. And then so Adonis visits Damian's locker room, and then they have this conversation, which is parallels. They did the same thing in Creed 2, where Adonis went to talk to Drago after the match. And I love something like so they're just apologizing. So like Adonis apologizes to Damian because he's like, I should have reached out. I should have done more. And Damian says something that was just so deep. He just says, "We was kids.
Yeah.
It wasn't on you." And I think Adonis needed to hit. I think because even at this, as he was saying it, I felt like Damian was realizing he had such anger and ire towards this person, but he was like, "Bro, we was kids.
Yeah.
Like what And I think it was just a beautiful moment. And then like you could tell like it's very much like how Apollo and Rocky became friends after the second film or whatever. It was just like you'll definitely see maybe you'll see Damian in future installments, maybe not as an antagonist, maybe a frenemy or something, like whatever it is, but it was just like they've definitely like reconciled in that moment. And then like Damian tells him, go celebrate with your people. And I was really hoping that, and this is just I was hoping that Adonis would invite Damian to go celebrate with it, because as you see, like Damian has really nobody except his 2 trainers.
Well, I guess all those random party people came up out of nowhere, so he might tell us.
Yeah, but that might be random party people. But it was just like I was hoping that he would just invite him to celebrate.
Yeah.
But
it does nicely end with Adonis being like, "Hey, if you need anything, I'm here." They had that. Yeah. So with all of that, like my I guess complaints is one from the boxing match we just had and Duke was like, "Hey, he's going to start fighting dirty. He's going to start doing his thing." He never fought dirty the entire time. They were like playing that up, and Dame never actually fought dirty. And like his fighting,
well, you don't know, maybe in the void.
I don't know, I guess, but like, yeah. And 2. Obviously, because we want to make sure both actors stay pretty for their close-ups. You know, like their faces, even from a 12-round boxing match with this kind of brutality, their faces were very clean. But I'm just thinking like Rocky 1, dude. Sylvester Stallone was so beat up in Rocky 1, like, you know, his face all swollen. They had to cut his eye and all that. But you didn't get that here. I wish there was a little bit more of that. But other than that, yeah, no, I'm not going to rehash it. It was a great fight sequence. It was really good. And there at the end, I will just say, I think Dame, who had like Dame, I feel that Dame kind of always knew that interaction with Adonis of like, hey, you know, like we were just kids, it wasn't on you. But I think at the same time, he always needed / wanted to hear that from Adonis. I think that's really what he needed to hear, because like, I don't think Dame really had that much animosity and anger. I mean, obviously there was anger towards Adonis, but like that was because all he needed to hear, I think, partially was Adonis saying, "I'm sorry, you're right. I should have reached out. I should have been able to write letters, but I didn't." And then Dame, it felt like, yeah, immediately it was like, dude, it's like, obviously I was upset. Obviously stuff happened, but we were kids. That's not on you. And I think that, well, he needed that, and that was a really powerful moment between the two men, which was awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the final scene, you get like a moment in the ring with Adonis, Bianca, and Amara. Like she's like, you know, practicing fighting, and he gets in and spars with her and lets her win, and it's a sweet moment. And then he walks away. You know, he walks away from the ring, and that's the final shot. And in the movie.
Yeah. Perfect. And yeah, so what we always like to do at the end of our movies, we just like to do a quick review or see if our reviews from the beginning changed. Mike, 0 to 5, what do you give it still? Or do you change it, Ethan?
I'm still giving it a 4. Like I said, as we were going through it, I was like, I knew you were gonna have an issue with the pacing between Act 2 and Act 3.
I normally do.
But I think I still think the everything was just done very well. Like, and it left it open to. This is what I think I appreciate, and what Marvel does so poorly. It was just like it left it open for more, but it didn't tease too much. It was just like, you know, maybe not, right? I think it's nice when films are allowed to exist in a silo, you know, or on their own. They could be a part of something bigger. Obviously, this was a sequel to something, but it was just like it still existed in its own little world, right? Yeah. So yeah. Definitely 4 out of 5.
I'm sticking with the 3 out of 5 still. Like, which 3 out of 5 for me is high. You know, like there's 4 out of 5. I won't give a 5 except for The Mummy with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz, 1999. That's the only 5. But 3 out of 5. I want to express that still means it's a great movie. Again, Jonathan Majors was absolutely phenomenal. MichaelBJordan was great. Tessa Thompson was phenomenal as well. They had great chemistry together. I think everyone portrayed their characters so well. It was just. The pacing, for me, was like pacing. And like that's what I had at the end when they walk out. I was like, what happened with their daughter with school? We never revisited that storyline. I was like, what happened with that?
Did she punch that girl?
Yeah, I'm like, do we just don't care? All right, we just don't care. Like, so and that's like really my grievance with the movie, and that is like the Act 2. Like, so Act 1 I thought was phenomenal. Act 2, I think it slipped and fumbled a little bit because I'm like, what happened with that storyline? Adonis and Bianca still aren't talking, but we're going to fix it because... And Adonis's mom died, which is a tragic thing. But, like, we're going to fix all their issues because she died, and that's going to be the catalyst. But, like, that felt a little weak at times for me. And then same with, like, with Amara. And then with that such a quick tonal shift of now instead of Dame, I was like, oh, he's Kang the Conqueror right here. Okay, because like when he like came into the party, man, he was like hunched over, black hoodie, hood up, and I was like, oh, he's a fool on. Like if he shot lasers out of his boxing gloves right now, I would believe it, right? Because that was like that tonal shift. But again, still 3 out of 5. I thought it was a great movie. I do recommend everyone see it. And again, I now need to revisit all the Rocky movies. So. I have plans. But yeah, so if you'd like, so that is everything from us. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. If you would like to reach out to us, we are at 2 Meddling Kids at Twitter, Instagram, or at 2 Meddling Kids at gmail.com if you want to email. We'd love to hear from y'all. If you have any questions, comments, movies, you say, hey, yo, that was a terrible opinion. You're bad at movies. Let me know. I'll hear you. I'll disagree politely. But, you know, hey, I'm down to hear it too. Mike, how can they reach you?
On Instagram at Days from Legendary.
Perfect. And if you'd like to reach out to me, I am at EdHunt77 on Twitter and Instagram. So until next time, everybody, we'll see you soon.
Bye.